90% of preppers will be dead within the first 7 days of a real collapse. Not the ones you see on TV with their underground bunkers and shelves full of freeze-dried food. Not the guys flexing their gun collections on YouTube. I'm talking about regular people who think they're ready, who've spent thousands of dollars on gear, who've watched hundreds of hours of survival content, and who genuinely believe they have a plan. Most of them won't make it past day 5. And here's the part that should really scare you. If you're watching this video right now, statistically speaking, you are one of them. But you don't have to be. Stick with me for the next few minutes because I'm going to walk you through the exact mistakes that get preppers killed, and more importantly, the simple changes that can put you in the top 10% who actually survive. Let me start with something uncomfortable. The prepping community has a massive image problem, and it's not what you think. The problem isn't that preppers are crazy. The problem is that most preppers are way too confident. They've bought the gear, they've stocked the food, they've watched the videos, and that confidence is exactly what's going to get them killed. Real survival doesn't care how much money you spend at the survival store. It doesn't care how cool your tactical vest looks. It doesn't care that you have a 5-year supply of beans in your basement. Survival cares about 3 things: your mindset, your skills, and your ability to adapt when everything you planned for goes sideways. And trust me, it will go sideways. Let's talk about the first reason most preppers die. They prep for the wrong disaster. Walk into the average prepper's home and you'll see preparations for nuclear war, an EMP attack, a zombie apocalypse, or some kind of total societal collapse. These are the scenarios that get views on YouTube. These are the scenarios that sell gear. But these are not the disasters that actually happen. The disasters that actually happen are hurricanes, tornadoes, ice storms, power outages, job loss, medical emergencies, house fires, and economic downturns. Look at every major disaster in the last 20 years. Hurricane Katrina, the Texas freeze of 2021, the wildfires in California, the pandemic. None of these were the dramatic end-of-the-world scenarios that preppers obsess over. They were regional, time-limited, messy, and deeply human disasters. And the people who survived them best weren't the ones with the biggest bunkers. They were the ones who had basic supplies, flexible plans, and strong relationships with their neighbors. So the first lesson is this: stop prepping for the apocalypse and start prepping for Tuesday. Because Tuesday is what's actually going to hit you. The second reason most preppers die is water. I know that sounds simple, but hear me out. The average person needs about 1 gallon of water per day for drinking, cooking, and basic hygiene. That means a family of 4 needs 4 gallons every single day. In a week, that's 28 gallons. Most preppers have maybe a few cases of bottled water in the garage, and they think they're set. They are not set. When the tap stops working, when the city water gets contaminated, when the power goes out and your well pump stops, you have about 3 days before dehydration starts killing you. Not killing you in some dramatic way. Killing you slowly, through confusion, bad decisions, weakness, and organ failure. The solution here is not to buy 10,000 bottles of water. The solution is to have multiple ways to get water. A water filter like a Berkey or a Sawyer Squeeze. A few large, food-grade water containers you can fill from the bathtub when you see a storm coming. Knowledge of where the water sources are in your area, like creeks, ponds, rainwater collection points, and the skills to actually purify that water through boiling, filtering, or chemical treatment. If you don't have a real water plan, none of your other prepping matters. You will die of thirst surrounded by your beans and rice.
The third reason most preppers die is they assume they'll be at home when disaster strikes.
This is one of the biggest blind spots in the entire prepping community. Think about your week. How many hours do you spend at home versus at work, at school, at the grocery store, in your car, at your kid's soccer practice, or visiting family? For most people, you're away from home more than half of your waking hours. Now think about this. What happens if a major disaster hits while you're at work? What happens if the roads are blocked? What happens if your kids are at school across town? What happens if your spouse is on a business trip? Your beautiful, perfectly stocked home pantry doesn't help you if you can't get to it. This is why every serious prepper needs what we call a get-home bag. Not a bug-out bag, which is for leaving your home. A get-home bag, which is for getting back to your home. This bag lives in your car or your office. It contains good walking shoes, water, snacks, a basic first aid kit, a flashlight, a knife, weather-appropriate clothing, and a paper map of your area. Because when cell towers go down and GPS stops working, that paper map is going to be worth more than gold. The preppers who die in the first week are the ones who got separated from their supplies and had no plan to get back to them. The fourth reason most preppers die is they don't have the skills to use their gear. I see this all the time. Someone spends $2,000 on a top-of-the-line water filtration system, and they've never actually used it. They have a generator, but they've never started it. They have a chainsaw for clearing storm debris, but they've never cut a single log. They have a firearm for protection, but they've fired it maybe twice in the last 5 years. Gear without skill is just expensive decoration. When the moment comes, when you're tired and scared and your hands are shaking, you need muscle memory. You need to have done it 100 times so your body knows what to do without thinking. This is why the most valuable thing you can spend your money on isn't more gear, it's training. Take a wilderness first aid course. Practice starting a fire in the rain. Cook a full meal on your camp stove. Use your water filter to actually drink from a creek. Change a tire. Patch a roof. Sharpen a knife. These skills cost you nothing but time, and they're worth more than any gear you can buy. The fifth reason most preppers die is they prep alone. There's this myth in the prepping community of the lone wolf survivor, the rugged individual who hides out in the woods and survives by his wits. This is a fantasy. In every real disaster, in every documented survival situation, the people who make it are the ones who work together. Communities survive, individuals don't. If you've isolated yourself from your neighbors, if you don't know the people on your street, if you have no one you can call when things go bad, you are in serious trouble. You can't pull a 24-hour security watch by yourself. You can't take care of an injured family member while also gathering water and firewood and watching the perimeter. You will burn out within 72 hours. The preppers who survive are the ones who built relationships before the disaster. They know their neighbors. They have skills to trade. They have people who will look out for them and who they will look out for in return. So tomorrow, walk over to your neighbor's house. Bring a plate of cookies. Have a conversation. You don't have to tell them you're a prepper. You just have to be a human being. Because when the lights go out, that neighbor might be the difference between life and death.
The sixth reason most preppers die is they ignore their health.
This one's brutal, but it has to be said. Look in the mirror. Are you overweight? Out of shape? On multiple prescription medications? Do you smoke? Do you drink too much? Can you walk 5 miles carrying a 30-pound pack? Can you climb a flight of stairs without getting winded? Survival is physically demanding. Cutting wood is hard work. Hauling water is hard work. Walking 10 miles to get home is hard work. Defending your family from a threat is hard work. If you can't do these things now, in good conditions, with plenty of food and rest, you absolutely will not be able to do them when you're stressed, hungry, and scared. The single most important prep you can make is getting your body in shape. Lose the weight. Walk every day. Lift something heavy. Get your blood pressure under control. Reduce your dependence on prescription medications by improving your overall health. Because in a real crisis, the pharmacy is closed, the gym is closed, and the only body you have to work with is the one you brought. The seventh reason most preppers die is they have no plan for sanitation. This sounds gross, but it's deadly serious. After Hurricane Katrina, more people got sick from contaminated water and poor sanitation than were injured by the hurricane itself. When the toilet stops flushing, when the trash stops getting picked up, when the sewer system backs up, disease spreads fast. Cholera, dysentery, hepatitis. These aren't ancient history. They come back the moment modern sanitation breaks down. Most preppers have zero plan for this. They have food, they have water, they have nothing for human waste, garbage disposal, or basic hygiene. You need a 5-gallon bucket with a toilet seat lid. You need contractor-grade trash bags. You need wood ash, sawdust, or kitty litter to cover waste. You need plenty of soap, hand sanitizer, bleach, and toilet paper. You need a way to wash your hands, your dishes, and yourself. Because if you don't, your prepper compound becomes a petri dish, and you'll watch your family die not from bullets or starvation, but from diarrhea. The 8th reason most preppers die is they panic. The brain is a strange thing under stress. When something terrible happens, most people don't go into action mode. They go into denial mode. They freeze. They wait for someone to tell them what to do. They refuse to believe what's happening right in front of them. There's a famous statistic from disaster research. When a building catches fire, the average person waits 8 minutes before evacuating. 8 minutes. They sit there, gathering their things, trying to call someone, looking for their shoes while the fire spreads. The same thing happens in larger disasters. People can't accept that the situation is real. By the time they finally accept it, the windows of opportunity have closed. The roads are jammed. The stores are empty. The gas stations are dry. The way to beat this is to mentally rehearse. Sit down with your family and walk through what you would do if the power went out for 2 weeks. What if there was a wildfire approaching your neighborhood? What if a tornado was coming? Talk through the steps. Where do you meet? Who grabs what? What's the first thing you do? The second thing? The third thing? This mental rehearsal builds neural pathways that your brain can use under stress. The preppers who survive are the ones who've already lived through the disaster in their minds.
The 9th reason most preppers die is they trust the wrong sources.
The prepping space online is full of grifters, fearmongers, and people selling nonsense. They want you scared because scared people buy things. They sell you overpriced food buckets, useless gadgets, and fake survival courses. Meanwhile, the real wisdom is sitting in libraries, in old books, and the memories of grandparents who lived through the Great Depression and World War II. The Boy Scout Handbook from the 1950s contains more useful survival information than 90% of modern prepper YouTube channels. The FEMA guides on disaster preparedness are free and full of solid information. The Red Cross has decades of real-world experience helping people through disasters. Stop buying the panic. Start studying the proven sources. The people who actually survived hard times left us instructions. We just have to read them. And the 10th reason most preppers die is they forget about morale. This one is invisible, but it kills more people than you'd think. In every long-term survival situation, the biggest threat isn't running out of food or water. It's losing the will to keep going. Boredom, depression, hopelessness, fighting with family members in close quarters, missing the comforts of normal life. These things grind you down day by day. The preppers who make it through long disasters always have things to keep their spirits up. Books to read, card games to play, coffee in the morning, comfort foods, music, photographs of loved ones, something to look forward to. If your prep plan is just survival without joy, you'll quit. Maybe not in week 1, but in week 3 or week 6, when you realize this is your life now, the despair will set in and it will kill you faster than any external threat. So stock the chocolate, pack the deck of cards, bring the harmonica. These things aren't luxuries, they're survival tools. So let's bring this all together. The preppers who die in the first week aren't dying because they didn't buy enough gear. They're dying because they prepared for the wrong disasters, ignored water, assumed they'd be home, never practiced their skills, isolated themselves, neglected their health, ignored sanitation, panicked when it counted, trusted the wrong information, and forgot to take care of their morale. The 10% who survive aren't superheroes. They're not ex-special forces. They're not millionaires with private bunkers. They're regular people who got the basics right. They have water and they know how to get more. They have a get-home plan and they've practiced it. They've trained with their gear until they could use it in the dark. They know their neighbors. They've taken care of their bodies. They have a plan for waste and hygiene. They've mentally rehearsed for emergencies. They listen to proven sources, not internet hype. And they take care of their minds and spirits along the way.
Here's what I want you to do today. Not next month, not when you have more money, today.
Walk through your house and count how many gallons of water you actually have. Then make a list of how you would get more water if the tap stopped working tomorrow. Pack a get-home bag for your car this weekend. Walk over to one neighbor and introduce yourself. Take one item of gear you own and actually practice using it until you're competent. These 4 small steps will put you ahead of probably 80% of preppers in this country. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars. You don't need to move to the mountains. You don't need to become someone you're not. You just need to be honest about where your weaknesses are and start fixing them, one small action at a time. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Prepping isn't really about disasters. Prepping is about taking responsibility for yourself and your family. It's about being the kind of person who doesn't fall apart when life gets hard. It's about being someone your loved ones can count on when everything else fails. The disaster might never come. I hope it never comes. But the skills you build, the relationships you form, the discipline you develop, and the peace of mind you earn will serve you every single day of your life, disaster or not. So don't be in the 90%. Don't be the person who had all the gear and none of the wisdom. Be the one who got the basics right. Be the one who took action while there was still time. Be the one who survives. Because the difference between the dead and the living in week 1 isn't luck. It isn't money. It isn't gear. It's the choices you make right now while everything is still calm. Make those choices count. Start today. Your future self will thank you.